As you all know, the British Empire ruled most parts of the world. But what if I told you there exists a man who could seize the entire United Kingdom? He was such a powerful man who controlled the telecom industry, natural gas, water, real estate, retail, and many more in the UK. This story is about the man who was once the richest man in China, sold his assets, and went to the UK to invest and develop his business. Li Ka Shing, the man who bought half of Britain. He was 12 when his family fled to Hong Kong from their home and became refugees. Within a few years, his father died. He started a business at the age of 22. A few years later, he becomes one of the richest men in Asia. He is Chinese, yet he downplayed his heritage for the success of his business. This man bought half of Britain. He was born in 1928. His father was a primary school principal. When he was 12, he and his family had to flee their home due to the Japanese invasion of China. Within 3 years of their arrival in Hong Kong, his father died due to tuberculosis. The entire burden of the family fell on him when he was just 15, which forced him to stop his studies.
The harbor entrance is traditionally the gateway to South China. Hong Kong is a Chinese name and means island of fragrant waters.
This is the year 1950. The world is at peace a little after World War II. This young man is 22. After searching for a decent job, he somehow finds one in sales in a plastics trading company. Because of his huge family responsibilities, he works really hard, more than 16 hours each and every day. One day, he gets an idea. Why don't I start a plastics business? Li discovers the scope of plastic flowers. He begins to manufacture them. He always wants his products to be the best in quality. He wants his plastic flowers to resemble the real flowers. After several iterations, Li finally gets the idea to mix certain colors with plastic. This makes the flowers look so real. Then he starts to sell them. His product is so distinct. One day, an international buyer visits his plant, gets impressed with the quality, and places a huge order. Boom! This is the turning point. Now he begins to export them to the United States. He names his firm Cheung Industries. His firm prospers. Now, with all that money he makes from the plastics company, Li gradually begins to acquire properties. One day, Li's landlord wants to raise the rent. Li thinks it will be profitable in the long run if he owns a building. So he purchases a site and builds his own factory. This is the first of many real estate investments. As you may already know, Hong Kong gained independence from the British on July 1st, 1997. So until 97, many riots and protests were happening in Hong Kong. This is the year 1967.
Week-long street demonstrations, whipped up by pro-communist mobs, take British Government House as their target. Posters demand the governor's resignation. Thousands of Chinese shouting Maoist slogans urge an end to British rule in the Crown Colony.
A period when the Cultural Revolution of Hong Kong is at its peak. A large-scale riot is being held by supporters of the Chinese Communist Party, CPP, against the British Hong Kong government. A minor labor dispute turns into a big protest against British colonialism. In fact, this riot makes it easy for him to get more land. The property prices are plummeting like crazy. Li is so clever. He thinks this is just a temporary crisis and that the property prices will eventually rise. So he starts buying land at low prices from the fleeing residents. Fast forward to the 1970s. This opportunistic move he took in 1967 makes him Hong Kong's leading private property developer and also makes him one of the richest men in Hong Kong. In 1972, Cheung Holdings got publicly listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Like any business, he had a rival. His goal was to always beat the Jardines, Jardine Matheson Holding Limited. It's a Bermuda-based British multinational company based in Hong Kong. Even today, it's a Fortune 500 company. They owned all the big real estate ventures in Hong Kong. Their history is so fascinating. They took over all the big projects in Hong Kong after World War II. In 1977, Cheung's successful bid for development sites above Central and Admiralty MTR stations opened the door to challenge Hong Kong land, which was owned by the Jardines. Once he even tried to take hostile control of the Jardines. When he was in Hong Kong, he was one of the smartest men. Despite their less than 10% stake, Britain's Keswick family had control of the group through a cross-shareholding structure. Since 1855, the Keswick family has been associated with the Far East region. Jardines Matheson is even a member of them. In 1984, after seeing all these riots and protests, Li moved his company's legal domicile from Hong Kong to another British overseas territory, Bermuda. This might seem overwhelming. He was pretty sure that if the control got transferred to China, he wouldn't be able to do business as freely as he did back then.
This was a moment he had long prepared for.
It has been the greatest honor and privilege of my life. Now, Hong Kong people are to run Hong Kong.
Britain learnt long ago that Hong Kong people know best what is good for Hong Kong.
Hong Kong's sovereignty was transferred to the People's Republic in 1997. A few of his assets in Hong Kong and the mainland were liquidated to diversify his portfolio. Li sold the Center, Hong Kong's fifth tallest skyscraper, for $5.15 billion US. This deal is the biggest ever office space sale in Asia-Pacific history, and it's the second largest deal for a single building anywhere. Li sold CenturyLink for $2.95 billion, according to the Financial Times. Li bought a significant stake in HUTCHISON WHAMPOA Company Limited in 1979 from Hong Kong Bank. Li wanted to expand his business empire after achieving success in real estate. Hong Kong and WHAMPOA Doc was founded in 1861. It was the first company registered in Hong Kong. HUTCHISON WHAMPOA merged with Hutchison International in 1977. It's a British-owned company. In the 1960s, the company was run by Sir Douglas Clogg, a British Hong Kong soldier and entrepreneur who lived most of his life in Hong Kong. In 1979, Li initially acquired 23% of HUTCHISON WHAMPOA from Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank. He was the first Chinese person to control the British companies dominating the Hong Kong economy for so long. When HUTCHISON WHAMPOA bought 33% of Hong Kong Electric Holdings in 1985, it grew exponentially. Throughout the years, Li gradually increased his stake in HUTCHISON WHAMPOA to 49.9% and used HUTCHISON WHAMPOA as a subsidiary of his other businesses. He was able to get into any business because of his company's British appeal. Cheung Holdings merged with HUTCHISON WHAMPOA in 2015. CK Hutchison Holdings became the world's largest independent port operator. With over 16,000 stores and over 137 million loyalty program members, the A.S. Watterson Group is the world's largest health and beauty retailer. Li got his hands on the largest retail market in the world when he merged with HUTCHISON WHAMPOA. It serves more than 5.3 billion customers each year. As CK Hutchison's subsidiary, ASW operates a broad range of retail formats and brands and has a huge geographical footprint. Trading assets is what he does best. He always tries to stay one step ahead of the market. He sells his assets and trades them for other businesses. When he sells them, he moves on to his new venture to generate profits for his shareholders. In 1999, he made $15.12 billion when he sold Orange to Matheson Group. In 2006, in a $4 billion deal, Li made $3.12 billion by selling 20% of Hutchison's port business to his Singapore rival PSA Corp. Li Ka Shing went to the UK to make an acquisition plan. During that time, he focused his investments on the telecommunications industry in the UK. He saw the mobile wave that was taking over the world and he wanted to get a hold of it. That's Hutch, his Hutchison Telecommunications company. You might have seen this ad on TV, a pug dog that was always traveling with a small boy, and the tagline says, "Wherever you go, our network follows." He did really well in the UK. In 2007,
this is a day I've been looking forward to for 2.5 years. An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device, and we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
There was this 2G boom. The internet got a bit faster than GPRS. His company couldn't compete with giants and got beaten up in the internet competition. He was so strategic before losing market share that he sold 67% of his stake to Hutchison Esser, a joint venture mobile operator that eventually became Vodafone. Meanwhile, Li Ka Shing bought 25% of the UK's electricity distribution market and 30% of the UK's natural gas supply market. There is no doubt that Li Ka Shing's purchase of this industry's share controls the lifeblood of the UK. Europe is heavily dependent on natural gas. 40% of the British telecom market was dominated by Li Ka Shing in the early 2000s, as well as 7% of the water supply industry. As a result, Li Ka Shing controlled most of the British's daily energy needs. I wouldn't be exaggerating if I said that he bought half of the United Kingdom. In addition to the UK, he invested in Italian telecom assets as well. Many people in China were criticizing Li Ka Shing because they thought he'd make money and run away. Eventually, he trades his assets and he moves on to the next big thing. While sitting comfortably with ridiculous profits, he constantly shifts his focus to another industry. Despite his vast investment portfolio, most of his investments are in the UK. It's a whopping $400 billion US. Li Ka Shing might be 80+ years old while doing this. He doesn't seem to have lost his visionary thinking. Li always looks for the new technologies and identifies potential future players. In 2010, Li led a $15.5 million Series B round of funding for Siri Inc. Li bought a 0.8% stake in Facebook and invested $50 million in Spotify. In 2013, Li invested in BitPay, a Bitcoin payment company. In September of 2017, Li worked with Alibaba's Jack Ma to make Alipay HK available in Hong Kong. In 2013, he began to sell his assets. After buying half of Britain, Li secretly changed his nationality back to Chinese. But why did he do this? There was no sign that he ever left China. His income from mainland China was about 10% of his income, which stayed constant over the years. He had Canadian nationality before, he was a Hong Kong citizen and Chinese by birth, and he was just changing it back. Li started investing again in China after changing his nationality. So is it really the idea of returning to China when he's old? I don't think so. The British economy has been struggling for the past 2 years. It's possible to get a big return on your investment when there's a downturn. Li Ka Shing has been in business for a very long time. Given the current economic conditions, why wouldn't he transfer his investments back to China? Despite being a developing country, China competes with the US and the rest of the world for its economic superpower. Even after achieving everything in his life and saving assets for generations, Li felt that he was not happy. He pondered a lot. One night when he was in bed, he felt that he should start a foundation and donate 1/3 of his wealth. But donating 1/3 of your hard-earned money is never easy, is it? He said to himself, if I had another son, 1/3 would be given to him. This thought suddenly made him very happy, and he found a solution. One afternoon, while having lunch with his sons, he said they have a younger brother. His sons were shocked and were like, "Dad, what the hell? A third son? Seriously?" Then he told them he'd start a foundation and give 1/3 of his assets to that foundation, and that asset wouldn't be considered family property. That's how the Li Ka Shing Foundation came into existence. He said they should treat it as if it were their brother or their own family. Over $3.3 billion has been donated, and 80% of it goes to China. He is often noted for his frugal lifestyle. He wears an inexpensive watch that always shows a time of 30 minutes ahead. He lost his wife, Cheung in 1990. Cheung was his first cousin, and they were married for a very long time until she died of cardiac arrest. One day in 1996, on his way home from work, his eldest son, Victor Li, was kidnapped by Cheung Kang, aka Big Spender. It's a controversial event in his life. After Cheung came to Li's house, Li gave him a huge ransom of 1 billion Hong Kong dollars. No report was filed with Hong Kong police. Instead, mainland authorities pursued the case, leading to Cheung's execution in 1998, which isn't legal in Hong Kong. There were rumors that Li and the mainland had made a deal. Li brushed off the rumors in interviews and dismissed it. As of 2018, at the age of 89, Li Ka Shing retired and handed over his $100 billion conglomerate to his son, Victor Li. CK Hutchison and CK Asset Holdings operate in over 50 countries with over 250,000 employees. He still remains as a senior advisor. His life, it's like something out of a fantasy movie. How Li Ka Shing went from war refugee to the world's richest. According to Bloomberg, he had a net worth of $35.3 billion in July 2021. He earned it all because he had a strategic mindset and worked hard. As he always said, it doesn't matter how strong or capable you are. If you don't have a big heart, you will not succeed. Hope you like watching this video. Make sure to leave a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more such videos. Comment down below, who do you want to see next? Until next time.